I recently, probably from one of these short form videos, saw something that was talking about the most impactful thing that a young person could do that equates to long-term success is doing chores as a kid.
Peter, hello. So good to see you. Welcome back, everyone. As we know, FinTok makes investing look easy, but is it setting you up to fail? Social media finance gurus have exploded in popularity as more young people and everyone really turns to FinTok and other social media platforms for money advice. But new research shows that if you focus on short form content instead of qualified professionals, you could be putting your money at risk. So listen to these stats, Peter. A recent FINRA Investor Education Foundation study found that 25% of adults now turn to social media for investing advice. And that number jumps to 61% for people aged 35 and under. Does that surprise or scare you?
Yeah, a little bit of both there. Although less surprised, more scared.
Yeah.
It seems like the less experienced you are with investing, probably the more you're turning to this as the resource and source of information and guidance, which is a little scary, but perhaps not surprising, because those who have more experience or are more affluent probably have a source of advice that they can go to directly rather than the generic information on social media. These have also been called finfluencers or finance bros, and perhaps I even fall into that category. I mean, we do take these videos and put them out on social media as well, but always, this is generic information until you consult individually with your specific professional, and don't take it as concrete advice that applies to you. Again, informational purposes only here on all forms of social media or publications or mass media of any type. Your financial guidance needs to be catered and customized to you, not the 10, 15 million other people who are also watching the same video. It is information, not guidance.
Right. So as you're just talking about, many finfluencers, as they're known, condense complex investing strategies into quick, easy to follow videos, often without explaining downside risk. So what are the biggest risks you see being glossed over if investing is presented this way? And as you think that through, Peter, just sharing an article I came across recently from Business Insider. There's a ton of investing advice on TikTok. Most of it is bad, a new study says.
Yeah, I would tend to say most of it is not specific enough to be good. There is some good information that's out there, but how do you know if it applies to you, or if you're in the right stage or phase, or if it does apply? So, a whole range of content. And I think that the younger generation is almost in the we're not going to make it by traditional methods.
Yeah.
We've got to think up something new, and they're kind of in the get rich quick mindset. Traditional long-term investing works. It works effectively. It is the get rich quick scheme, but it takes 30 to 40 years to come to fruition. So your definition of quick may need to be adjusted slightly. Unfortunately, like the vast majority of people who are digesting this information on TikTok, on these social media, they are young and they are not looking out more than, the tip of their nose. 10, 15 years is the longest kind of time frame I think that I could even imagine when I was 20, 25 years old. Now that I am 45, almost 46, I'm halfway to 90. And so my definition of long-term and my time frame has expanded greatly. But I think that the kind of mindset of where is my next side hustle, or how can I game the system, is really prevalent in the social media finfluencer element. And I think that's dangerous and scary.
Right. That's why we don't see Warren Buffett on these FinToks. How many times can you say compound interest is really what matters?
I see Warren Buffett on Instagram posting things very, very in line with what you just said. I mean, he's trying to convey the wisdom that decades and decades of investing have taught him, and more kind of the morals of hard work and long-term determination equaling success. I recently, probably from one of these short form videos, saw something that was talking about the most impactful thing that a young person could do that equates to long-term success is doing chores as a kid. And I think that a lot of that kind of moral fortitude is what comes through in a lot of Warren Buffett's information. Is like it's long-term work and determination and enjoying and learning constantly. I think that you can get some of that, a tidbit, like just scratching the surface on these finfluencer channels, but you've got to really have some experience and dig in and understand what information is applicable to you and then what is kind of garbage noise that you need to filter out.
Right. Yeah, it really is interesting. So I think the other half of it is most of these influencers lack real credentials. So how can investors tell the difference between credible financial guidance and content designed to drive clicks or commissions?
Are you paying for it? I think is a question. I heard something about social media, and I think it rings true that when there is no cost, when there is no product, you are the product.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of this falls into, is that they're putting out information for these clicks, for these views, to drive their numbers, to drive their subscribers. That is how they in turn make revenue. So as fantastic or outlandish or shocking or surprising a content as they can put out that gains more viewership, that is kind of the goal. And don't get me wrong, I have tuned into some of these and I'm like, that's fairly good information, but here's who it applies to, here's who it doesn't, is a whole nother concept. And in short form media, where you're only covering, less than 60 seconds, you don't go into the, here's who this applies to, here are the rules about it, here's how to use and utilize this information. So I worry, and I think that question, how do you know, Erin, is an important one. And again, what I find is that most successful people with some track record, with some history, with some wealth built up, have a source of advice, an advisor that they've used for a long time who knows their situation specifically. And I think that's the biggest difference and differentiator here from generic information versus concrete advice and recommendations.
Right. And so we've touched on this a little bit then, but Peter, what foundational habits or principles should young investors focus on first? Because like you said, I feel like the trend with younger investors is investing in crypto, right? Or other kind of hot stock picks or the next big trend, as opposed to the boring 401k or retirement account.
Let's get back to boring.
Yeah.
It works. It works effectively. And these younger investors who are trying to get rich quick, they are the ones that have 3, 4 decades, 30, 40 years of time to let the markets work. So I think a back to basics kind of approach and just understanding the value of saving a little of every dollar that you make into some kind of traditional long-term type of investment and retirement approach. That's how their parents and grandparents made their wealth. That's how they reached the level of financial success and lifestyle comfort and confidence that they have. The younger generation is somehow expecting to step out of college and maybe in their first job and have that same level of financial wherewithal. And it's not going to happen, but they're thinking like these get rich quick schemes are their chance and opportunity to do that. And unfortunately, like there's probably more failure than success in that kind of approach. So if you want to try to swing for the fences, so to speak, and apologize for the sports analogy here, but if you want to try to hit a home run with a tiny little bit of your money, then you could do that after you have budgeted in the basics of Budgeting, understanding that more has to come in than what is going out. You have to have an emergency account. You have to try to get rid of debt. Debt is working against you. I have people come in that, they've got $10,000, $15,000 and they say, well, what's the best investment for me to place this in? But they've got $10,000 or $15,000 in debt over on the other side working against them at 22, 28% and, high interest credit cards. Like you're not going to outwork that rate of interest working against you. Have the fully funded emergency account. Be striving to save 15% of your income toward traditional long-term investment approaches. And then if you've got a little extra discretionary money, then and only then do you get into, well, what's the hot pick? What's the cryptocurrency market doing? And, by the way, we've seen a pretty significant rout in crypto here. So a lot of people thought that the get rich quick scheme was underway, and inevitably, more often than not, get rich quick schemes end up in going broke even quicker.
Right. No, it's interesting to talk this through, Peter, because I think that, again, education is at the center of what we're talking about, right? And people think that they are getting that sort of an education on social media when really, again, they're just talking about trends and whatnot. So if somebody wants the sound, boring, yet way to build wealth advice from you, what's the best way to reach you?
That's what we do. We keep it boring so that hopefully you can worry about life and not money. And that's the goal with the optimized retirement plan that we put together for our clients at Richon Planning. Wherever you're at in your stage and your progress, we've got parents and grandparents that are bringing in kids and grandkids to get an intro into these topics of conversation. We're happy to do that. I've taught classes in the local high school. By the way, I owe several teachers an apology because it is much harder to keep the attention of a classroom of students than I ever thought. But I think I got through to a few of them in understanding the value of compounding interest. But again, these are lessons that I think we build on. Not only does the interest and the growth compound, but the knowledge compounds as well. And that's what we try to do for our clients. And a lot of people have had good luck in working and earning an income and doing some investing, access to the market, but don't understand how to bring all of the pieces of the picture together. And that's what that optimized retirement plan is really all about. If you'd like to get that put together, give me a call and we'll have an introductory conversation. You can ask questions. We'll get to know each other. And then we will decide if we want to get together and put together that optimized retirement plan. 919-300-5886. It is a courtesy service, complimentary, free of charge, to get that plan put together. Again, 919-300-5886. Or you can go online. It looks like Rich on Planning. It is Richon, my last name, richonplanning.com. And there's a button to schedule right there at the top of the homepage.
Great. Peter, thank you so much.
Yeah, good, important topic. All information, unless specific to you, is generic in nature. Don't rush out and act on it without consulting somebody who really understands the financial world and you and your situation first.
Agreed. Peter, thank you.
Thank you. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. One of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred, 401k or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio. The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.